Live. Good evening, all. How are we?
Good.
Good. Yeah, I was very, very tired today. I didn't get my nap, but anyway.
You sure? Are you sure you're live? I'm not showing it. Oh, there you go.
Yes, I'm live.
Here you go.
I am alive. So anyway, it's been a busy day, but that's all right. Appreciate everyone who helped and served and brought food and everything. I know the family really appreciated it. So
We had quite a
Anyway.
bit of food.
yeah, there's still lots here too. So
That's a different
Um,
trailer.
yeah. So
I maybe forgot one of CL's, but pick it up tomorrow.
did you get Miss Betty's dish?
Yeah, and I got me CL's too, and I think I forgot one of CL's. Didn't she bring a potato queso?
I don't remember, the family had the list and I cannot remember.
But I'm looking, if there's one in there, I'll take it home.
Yeah, I don't know. So
And
Anyway,
then also she-
but they're in the refrigerator and
Somebody, I
So-
can't remember who it is, somebody's supposed to pick theirs up tomorrow. Okay, Kathy, it seemed like it was Kathy.
Yeah, maybe they show up.
all right. Well, just keep Tammy and family in your prayers throughout the coming days. Just remember them. Remember the Morgan Campbell family. That is someone that Cheryl is related or not related to, but knows. He passed away last week. They had his funeral last Saturday. So anyway, he'd been on hospice for a while. Then the Josh Schmidt family, Bill Harrison family, and Kevin Jones. And of course, remember Miss Margie as she awaits getting with the doctor and hopefully being able to get something done with her back. They, as Angela said Sunday, they suspect that she has more than one fracture again. So keep her in your prayers. Anyone else that we need to put on our prayer list? Anyone? There, of course, are many that need to be on there and are on there. So, again, we don't know what COVID's going to do. I heard that it's reared its ugly head in China again, and they're shutting everything down. So,
And we got,
51 million quarantined or whatever you want to call it.
well, we got a variant.
Oh.
Yeah.
hopefully they'll keep it over there. But,
I thought we.
anyway, we just gotta live life though, so, I'm thankful for things opening up a little bit. It's, been nice. Leslie hadn't had to wear a mask for, I guess this is the third week now, so it's kinda nice to teach without having the mask on and seeing your students' faces. Seeing what kind of faces they're making at you while you're teaching math.
Yeah.
Again, just, keep all these folks in your prayers, as there are so many that still are sick, and, the flu bug been going around, so, just something else to happen. Of course, this coming week will be spring break, and so remember all the folks traveling on spring break, and so, we will not meet next Wednesday, as I will be at the campground. We're leaving Wednesday, and we'll be at Heber through Sunday. We're actually doing the service Sunday morning at Heber. So if you want to come and join us for the worship service, that's where we're going to do it. So I will get directions and that kind of thing. It's not really all that far, maybe an hour or
I think
so.
we went up there one time.
But it'll be nice. I'm kind of planning on doing it maybe around 11. I'm going to live stream it. So anyway, I just, we're gonna have several families up there, and there will be several families gone from here that Sunday. So I just thought we just, since I was up there, we just had service up there. I know that's gonna leave some folks out, but, you know, you can either watch it live stream or just take a break, but
It'll be on
Uh,
Facebook.
will be, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have my phone and tripod and we'll
Be at work and it's on.
we'll just, we'll have that.
Which is, what's the-
So, anyway, it'll be a little different, and we need to do some things different occasionally. There's nothing wrong, you know, this is not the only place we can worship.
Amen.
We can worship outside these walls, so, that's what we're gonna do. I'll probably preach, on, Easter, so not on Easter Day, but leading up to Easter. That's where I'm headed. After this Sunday, we're going to talk about Jesus' last week before the crucifixion, leading up to Easter Sunday. So, not sure exactly where I'm going yet with that, but as far as you know, that Sunday we're at Hebrew, but that's going to be the subject matter. So, anyway, it looks like probably either we'll soap it or study it, kind of like I did Christmas time, but about the last eight or nine chapters of John, because the book of John covers more of what took place on that last week when he was in Jerusalem than any other book of the Gospels do. I mean, from chapter 13 to chapter, 19, I think, covers, that last week. And so, a lot of the upper room discussion is in the book of John, and events that happen there, the foot washing and that kind of thing. So, that's the reason I'm going with the book of John for that. So
You're gonna give us
I probably will. I haven't gotten one ready yet, but I will get one ready so y'all can have it. But anyway, so that's what's happening, and so I hope that folks will have a good spring break and enjoy it. The weather's going to be, mid-60s or so, and go up into 70 or so, and then cool back off a little bit. So it should be good for people to get out and enjoy. So anyway, we're looking forward to a little getaway time and rest and relax. Of course, I don't know how rested and relaxed we're going to be. We're going to have Adeline with us. So yeah, Leslie decided we were going to take her to get her away by herself from little brother. So she needs a break too. So anyway, I'm looking forward to those things. Anything else we need to put on the prayer list? Anything? We got really a lot of things coming up. We have Saturday, there's a youth trip, bowling and pizza, and it'll be, I think they're gonna meet here at 10 and leave from here to be at the bowling alley around 11. I'm not sure how long they're gonna be there, but, and then that evening we'll have family game night and it'll start at 6 o'clock. So, you can enjoy one or the other or both. But we'll be here for a little while for that. Then, of course, we have Easter coming up with, I think there's an Easter egg hunt being planned. Easter is on the 17th of April this year, so fairly late in the month. But so we'll have that. And then, of course, in May, we will have Mother's Day one Sunday, and the plan is to have homecoming the following Sunday. So we're going to have two pretty big events going on 2 Sundays in a row. And then I think that following Sunday I'll be gone because we are doing a family beach trip again, and we'll be leaving on that Saturday. So I'll get somebody to fill in. I'll only be gone one Sunday We'll be back the following Friday. We're gonna get home before Labor Day weekenders travel.
That is a Sunday,
Yeah,
and so we're still gonna, even though it's a holiday weekend, we're still gonna try to do a potluck and hymn sing that Sunday,
what Sunday?
the 29th of May,
Okay.
that holiday weekend.
Yeah, 'cause there's some that. they
There's
don't
only
go
like
out
3
there. Yeah.
or 5 days of the year, so let's do
Yeah.
it up.
And then, of course, the May the 6th and 7th, we have our Lake Washita trip planned, so we'll be doing that. And then, of course, there's Mother's Day, and then June 6th through the 9th, we have church camp. So there's a lot of stuff, and really, we haven't even talked to Vacation Bible School yet, which we need to do soon. So anyway, life is beginning to get busy, and we're excited that we're hopefully going to be able to do some things we haven't done in a while as far as a church family, and that all helps. You know, that fellowship helps a lot. So I hope that folks will join in and do that. So again, just keep all these things in prayer, and pray that God will just put a hedge around us and keep COVID away, that where it won't hinder anything that we do. And so looking forward to it. Anything else? Anyone else that you can think of that we need to put on the prayer list?
I probably could use some prayer next Tuesday. I'm supposed to go in and have a YAG procedure on my eyes, because since my cataracts were removed, my eyes have been getting progressively blurrier, and I have this film on both eyes. The gentleman who's doing it is not the one who did my cataract surgery, and he's giving me a really hard time about it. Because he feels like, his patient, he would do all of the follow-up, no matter how far out it happened. I'm like, but my insurance
Yeah.
changed, and so I can't go to her, so she sent me to you. And he wants to send me to a retinal specialist and a few other things first, and I'm like, dude, just please give me an appointment.
Get her done, dude.
So we did make sure he got all of the records from the other specialists. We have an appointment Tuesday at the last person of the day, and so hopefully he'll just say, okay, let's go do this.
Yeah.
That's my prayer. Because I'm really liking that I've been able to see, and it's frustrating that, even these new glasses I can't see much.
So
Where do you
keep,
see it, down at the Rock?
It's in Jones Eye Clinic, or, it's in UAMS. I know I always say it wrong. That Vermont language. So, and he definitely knows what he's doing. I was so surprised at what a hard time he gave me about it. Okay.
keep Danny in your prayers for next Tuesday as she goes to see a new eye doctor.
Is she on the prayer list?
Do what?
Is Danny on the prayer list?
Well, she is now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wrote it down. Yeah, she is on the prayer list.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, so just keep all those folks in your prayers. Anyone else? Anyone? Alrighty. Well, let's also pray about daylight saving time. One way or the other, keep it the same.
Yeah.
And it's actually going through the
I don't
House
care
and Senate, but
which
do one or the other, but leave it alone.
It's got through the Senate,
'Cause
it's
this
going
week-
to the House.
This week, it's progressively gotten harder for me to get up.
Well, it made me so horrible for the first
It's
3 days.
permanent,
I mean,
everybody.
really bad.
Yeah.
I
Of course,
don't know
we
what to
have some states that are already there, so it won't affect them any.
It might be on the wrong one.
Well, they don't care. They've been on a different one for half the year anyway, so doesn't matter whether they're on a different one forever or whatever. So the older I get, the worse the more that affects me. So especially that springing forward, don't like it. But
It really played tic-tac-toe with my diabetes. Cause the eating times were different and,
Yeah, it
That's
messes
not
with
good.
folks. So anyway, just remember all these folks and matters in your prayers, and let's have a word of prayer, then we'll get into our study. Father, we thank you so much for your love and care. We thank you for blessing us the way that you have. Thank you, Lord, for being with us today as we celebrated the life of Blanche Lawson, and God, just continue to be with that family and friends that have lost a dear loved one. God, we know that you're with us in all times, and we know that your Spirit just empowers us to be able to grieve and still have peace and joy that can only come from you. So, Lord, just help us to be very encouraging and uplifting, and just help this family move along. God, just bless all these that we've talked about, and others who we did not, but you know their needs, and we pray for each one that you would bless them in the way that they need a blessing, and whether it's physical healing or some type of other healing or just encouragement, just God, just bless them in a very special way, and just fulfill their needs as only you can. Father, again, thank you for this time together and these that are here. And we just pray that more and more will desire, as the people during the time of Nehemiah, they just desire to hear your word, and desire to hear it read, and desire to hear it preached, and that, God, we would see the need and the importance of gathering together and studying your word. God, we just ask your blessings on all that we strive to do, that it's not for our benefit but yours. We love you and praise you, and just bless this time together in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, chapters 10 and 11 of Nehemiah.
So many.
And so many wonderful names. Does somebody want to try to pronounce them all?
I like the one, Bunny.
Bunny?
Yeah, B-U-N-N-I.
Yeah. I bet it wasn't pronounced bunny back then.
No, good one.
Obadiah, I can do Obadiah.
Obadiah.
A few I can do.
I just like the ayahs. When you get on that kick and you're reading it in there, the ayahs, Shebaniah, Obadiah, that could go into a rap song or something,
Yeah, really.
But yeah, there was a bunch of names. What was so important about those names? Why does the Bible have names in them anyway? Is it just to bore us to tears?
No.
Causes grief in trying to pronounce them?
It's a record.
It is a
Yeah.
record, and it's an important record, just like this one. We may not know a clue about really who these people are, but they did something very significant. They were leaders in Israel at the time, and they signed a covenant saying that, hey, we're going to change our ways. We're going to do something significant here for the Lord. And so these people are signing on the dotted line, like the Declaration of Independence. Those people signed on the line to say, we support this. In fact, some of them gave up their lives for it.
Some gave up everything.
So, that is kind of the same instance here, although it was a matter of much more importance. Because again, it was a declaration of, God had made a covenant with the nation of Israel. Now this is the nation of Israel making a covenant with God. And God didn't necessarily ask them to. He did ask for their loyalty and for their obedience, but he didn't tell them they had to put it in writing and for all these people to sign on the dotted line. Do you know how many names are on there? 84. Well, I didn't either. A commentary I read said there were 84 names, so I trusted him because I didn't want to go back and count. But and that's a lot of verses right there with just names in it. I mean, you've got 28 verses there, or 27, that just have names. I mean, that's all it is names. And so it was important enough to make it into the Old Testament. So it is important for us today to understand that these folks did stand up and say, yes, we are going to do this. And so when you see the rest of that chapter, then you get what they're going to do.
It's
Yeah.
kind of the law in a nutshell, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's kind of a summary of the law to a certain degree. So questions versus, you know, when I get started, I can't stop. So I'll give you all the opportunity.
Well, I'm kind of backtracking, but when we go back to chapter 7, it was talking about the registry of the genealogy of the people
Uh-huh.
returning from Babylon, and there was 42,000 people.
Uh-huh.
Right now, I know they just live in and around Jerusalem.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, when we get over here to verse 11 in this week's reading, and it said, the rulers of the people dwelt in Jerusalem, and the rest of the people also cast lots to bring 1 of 10 to dwell in Jerusalem and the holy city, and 9 parts to dwell in other cities. So out of each tribe that had came back from Babylon, just 1 in 10 got to come back in to Jerusalem within the city.
Well, and I think that was, I don't think living in Jerusalem at this time was a privilege.
Yeah,
It was a
There
job. I
signs
mean, it was
together.
Yeah, because that's
it
what
was a
I-
major undertaking because, you know, these people had already moved out and they had land and they were probably farming.
Yeah.
That's the reason that people moved outside the walls of Jerusalem, because they could farm and they could grow food and that kind of thing. Whereas in Jerusalem, you had, you know, the city was still basically in shambles. I mean, it had not been totally rebuilt. So first of all, you're going to have to get into the mode of building a house, but then you're also going to have to find a way to make a living.
Yeah.
You know, and so this was a big sacrifice. I mean, they were giving up a lot, and they were probably leaving kinfolks in order to live in Jerusalem, but they did it willingly. Even though they cast lots to see who would go, they were not forced to go. This is something they did willingly. Because, I mean, why would they do that? Why would they have that need?
Well, the temple had to be taken care of.
Well, I mean, basically you had your priests, Levites, and that kind of thing for that.
And probably protected.
Yeah, that's what I
There's-
think. They needed extra people for protection.
There's protection, but again,
God went to the trouble of sending Nehemiah and getting this built again.
yeah.
So someone has to be there to care for what God
He had to go back.
moved to do.
Well, and you think security, and even though the gates are there, I mean, still you got to have people within the walls
Yeah.
to keep it secure. And again, just the fact that Jerusalem was still in shambles overall.
Was it all men?
You know, I mean, that's the way it's stated, but obviously I would think that, now here's my thought, I don't have any proof of this, but I would think that if these people were drawn and they were married, that their families, you know, it wasn't their intent to divide families.
No.
All right, they were just trying to populate Jerusalem. So my thinking is, yes, the men were the ones who were drawn, but if they had families, then I would imagine their families would come with them.
But until I was thinking, all right, in a city you need, okay, like the baker, the butcher, and
Yeah, I mean, you.
all other craftsmen
Yeah.
for the city to work.
Yeah, again, you can't just have your own little farm out there and live on your own. I mean, in the city, I mean, like today, ask a city person where their food comes from.
Grocery store.
It comes from the grocery store, you know. And I'm serious. That is the way. That is the mentality of someone who lives like in a city where they don't see the agricultural side of it. All they see is the business side. You know, there's no food grown in New York City. And so if they don't go out into New York State to see, you know, New York State's really a beautiful state. You know, every time I think about going to New York, I think New York City, which I've never been and don't have any desire to go.
Ask
It used to
Chris.
be
But
my city.
I have been into New York State when Derek was with the shooting sports. And it was much like here, you know, it was hills and trees and, you know, it was very nice. And so, you know, they had to kind of change their lifestyles to live in the city itself. Because, you know, Jerusalem was not a small city. Because you think about like when the New Testament days came, they estimated that like during the day of Pentecost, I mean, there were several million people in and around Jerusalem. So it was not a small city. And that's the reason, because I mean, there were, if I remember reading right, there were several hundred priests and Levites already living there. And apparently that's just a drop in the bucket of how many they needed to populate it. So, you know, and I'm sure that 1 out of 10 probably didn't totally populate it, but it was a start anyway.
On through chapter 11, it adds them up, but I haven't totaled them all up.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Like the sons of Perez that dwelt at Jerusalem were 468 valiant men.
Yeah,
And
There's-
and then there's 200 and, you know, but even 1 in 10 of the 42,000 that came back would be a huge number.
right. Well, you know, by the time that this came around, there had been several returns. The one with Zerubbabel, of course, was the biggest.
Yeah.
Because it was around, if you add the other, not just the Israelites, but servants and stuff, I mean, it was right around 50,000 people. And then Ezra brought several thousand people, not near the number that Zerubbabel. I think that if I remember reading right, by the time the returning groups came, there were like over 100,000 that had finally eventually returned to Israel. So I mean, there was you know, it was not the population that once lived in Israel. I mean, there were several million probably that lived before captivity. But, you know, 100,000 was probably a good start, even though it was a vast country. And, you know, when they moved out, it was few and far between. But, you know, like the sons of Benjamin, they were 928 of them. So, I mean, there was a bunch. And, of course, chapter 11 is another one of those chapters that gives you a bunch of names, you know. But again, it tells you about those who were living in the city, and then it also gives you villages outside, because the end of chapter 11 gives you the villages outside of Jerusalem. So those villages were very important, by the way, because like I said, they're the ones that grew the food and brought it into Jerusalem. You know, when you read our reading this week, you know, part of it is the deal is that, you know, Israelites and foreigners as well were bringing food into Jerusalem and selling it on the Sabbath. But I mean, that just tells you that, you know, the merchant trade was pretty active in Jerusalem. And so, again, you needed people to be able to work at that and handle it and sell it. And so that is what, you know, took place here. you know, it really is interesting to see how God worked and dealt with repopulating different areas, because in my opinion, it'd probably been a whole lot easier for everybody just to go out and live in the country and do their own thing,
Yeah.
rather than try to live in a city that was just totally a mess and try to get that commerce going again. Because, I mean, you gotta think, it was 70 years plus that Jerusalem was left in shambles. I mean, you know, and so to try to get that started back, it took a lot of effort. A lot of effort and a lot of desire. And so that's what we see with these folks right here is they had the desire to do it. It says, and the people blessed all the men who willingly offered to live in Jerusalem. Again, they had the lot, but they didn't force them if they were chosen to live. But these folks, when they were chosen, they actually more or less volunteered to go ahead and live there. So, you know, this is kind of a praise for them being faithful to making, you know, God's city and that land a better place. Anyone else have comments, questions? Of course, there are a lot of names in these 2 chapters, you know. There's very few just verses. There's just a lot of names. There's a lot of different groups, you know.
I've got a note in my Bible that said, you know, we were talking about why they put the names down. It said they were proud to be Jews, proud of their holy city, and conscious of having been a part of a great restoration. Perhaps as a part of this new pride, the Jews of Jerusalem had their names preserved and recorded alongside the names of the other restoration leaders.
Absolutely. I mean, it was
It's a great thing.
proud moment to have your name listed with leaders and that kind of thing. So, you know, I preached out of chapter 10 this past Sunday, and we talked about what was in the covenant that was signed. And so, you know, there was basically 4 categories there that the people said that they were going to do. And so what was the very first one that they said, we are going to do this. This is what we are going to be dedicated to. It is in verse 29.
And they said they're gonna walk in God's law.
Yep. It says they enter into a curse and an oath. You know what that means? Curse and an oath? Means that if they disobeyed it, they agreed that God would curse them. I mean, that's quite an ordeal, isn't it? If we mess up, you know, we willingly accept the punishment. It's an oath with the punishment is what that means, a curse and an oath. And so this is what they were agreeing to, that, you know, we are going to walk in God's law that was given way back then and do all the commandments of the Lord. And so it's a bold step to say, I'm going to obey everything that God tells me to do. It's bold. And oftentimes it doesn't happen, does it? But at least they were making not just an effort, but they were making a dedication here. You know, they were making a commitment to God here. Even though they, you know, as we will see in 13, they still messed up. But at least now they had the right focus. You know, if we do mess up, then we know that, hey, you know, we made this agreement and we got to get back to it, you know. And so Oftentimes people enter into so-called Christianity thinking that, once they so-called accept Christ, that life is going to be easy and they can just go live their life as they want to, and they really don't have to commit anything. Well, we know that that's not true. If you're a child of God, a true child of God, and the Spirit of God is residing within you, then you are going to have a desire to please God. And that will totally turn your life upside down.
Yeah.
It is totally a different life. And so, we can no longer live like the world does and have a desire to live like the world does. We now long to live a different lifestyle, to be separate. And so that is what, verse 30 talks about, because it says that we will not give our daughters to the peoples of the land or take their daughters for our sons. Now back then, the parents made the decisions of who their children were going to marry. Not so much today, is it?
No.
Not so much today. But so here you have the parents saying, they're really taking the responsibility for it. It's not the kids taking the responsibility, but it's the parents saying, we're going to make better choices. And we are going to make sure that the people that our kids marry, that they are in line with the commandments, the commands that God had given to Moses as far as the guidelines for the nation of Israel when it came to marriage. And of course, the main one there, the bottom line of it is there's not a lot, it's not hard, and there's not a lot of variance to it. It's simply this: don't marry outside
No foreigners.
the Israelite race. Now, this was not a racist thing, by the way. Why didn't God want them to intermarry with those nations outside?
Because
them.
they're all idol worshippers.
Exactly, and they would draw Israel into idolatry, which they did. Yeah, and that's the reason they went off into captivity. So, these parents are saying we are not going to do that anymore. Well, they may have had good intentions, but they did it again. So, so that was a major deal as well, to be separate. And that's the way we're supposed to live today, right?
Yeah.
We're supposed to live separate. Now, again, a lot of people misunderstand that. They don't think we're regular people. I've had people go fishing with me that, man, I don't know if I want to go fishing with a preacher or not. I'm just a regular person, Act like I can walk on water or something, or I'm gonna sit there in the boat and preach to them the whole time we're there. But we talk about stuff that we're interested in life itself, as far as things going on. But Christians are regular people.
Yeah.
We just have a different view. We have a different desire. It's not all about worldly stuff.
Our pace is different.
Exactly. And so that's what they're saying here. We're going to take different paths. We're not just going to live for the world anymore. And so that's an important factor. Another factor was, of course, in the way they did the work. You think about it. These folks were working on the Sabbath. Why were they working on the Sabbath? So that they could make more money. That's what their lives were about, making more money. The more money we make, the happier we are, the more we can buy. And, actually, the more money you make, the worse things are.
Yeah.
I know that, and the more stuff you have, the more worries you have.
But that's,
Yes.
down through the years, that's been the world view of the Jews.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
more
yeah.
you got, the more you want.
Yeah. But, it's kind of like building bigger barns, right?
Yeah, like that rich.
Yeah,
It's full now.
yeah, this one's full. Let's get another one. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking, oh, maybe we just need another storage shed. I said, we do not need another storage shed. Because you know what would happen if we got another storage
It
shed?
gets cramped.
We'll just fill it up,
Yep.
you know? And that's the way we are. We keep wanting to fill up our storage houses and have more stuff, and we don't do anything with the stuff we have. You know, that's what kills me about the American pickers. I mean, they go into these places, and these people have bought all of this stuff here, and it's just there. I mean, it's dust is 3 inches thick on it, or rusted away, and like you said, they won't say, well, what good? I look at my wife and I say, I don't understand that. Because there is not anything necessarily that I own that has that big of a pull and a draw on me. I mean, my motto is if I'm not using it, I'm going to sell it before it rots. You know,
But
I'm going to get rid of it because I don't need it.
I have some things, the sentimental values, they may be from my parents and so on. And, you know, I'm gonna hang on to them. Now, once I go to glory, the kids can do with them whatever they want to.
But you know, that's the way some people live their lives. We need to get more stuff, you know, and it just.
My grandmother was a terrible pack rat. I spent a lot of time with them as a child, and so I would go over to their home, and they had this cute little house which had a stairwell in the middle of it, and so they had the rooms around it. She had a table next to the stairwell, and it would be full of stuff. And so she would direct me, and I'd put it all in places, mostly in the attic, and then it would be clean. And I'd be so proud of myself, and I'd come back a week later, and it was full of stuff. And she never ever went in the attic. She didn't know
So
where any of this
it
was,
just
what
kept-
it was. She had to have it. And I was so exhausted.
But you know, and that's.
I'm trying to poke stuff in the box to go.
So these folks, you know, they were allowing stuff to come in on the Sabbath, and they were doing business on the Sabbath, and they were, again, disobeying the commandment of the Lord that you are to keep the Sabbath holy. You know, now, I've heard preachers talk about people that work on Sundays nowadays, and you know, honestly, I used to have to work on Sunday because it just was part of the job. It wasn't necessarily because I wanted more money, it's just that, you know, that job paid the bills. And that's what they said you had to do. You have to work every so often on Sunday. And
Like Chris has to work every
yeah, and I hated it.
weekend.
I mean, basically I work on Sunday now, but it's a little different job, but still, you know, it's true. And so, you know, and that was the problem here. I mean, they didn't have to do this on, you know, our businesses in the United, we don't have to be open on Sunday. We really don't. Walmart did it for so long, and they were making plenty of money, and then they decided, you know, we're going to go along with everybody else because we don't want to lose on, you know, we don't want to lose any profits because we're closed on Sunday. So far, Chick-fil-A is not buckled into that,
Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby.
but I'm very thankful for that. Apparently, their business is, you know, anytime you go by a Chick-fil-A, man, there's cars lined up everywhere.
And I'm honestly impressed when I drive by
yeah.
on Sunday.
Yeah, there's nobody
Roadside.
there. Yeah, but so I mean, you know, it's that human thinking that we have to do that. You know, make hay while the day is still, the sun is still up. So that was another thing that they said we weren't going to do. The last thing was probably the biggest, though. It was supporting the work of the Lord.
Yes.
And you know, they had, of course, they were off in captivity for 70 years, so they'd gotten out of the habit.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's an important factor because honestly, I would say in living for the Lord, that area is one of the biggest areas that truly declares your commitment or non-commitment to God, is giving to the work of the Lord. And it really does. Again, like I said Sunday, Jesus spoke more on people's money and they're dealing with money, then he taught about hell. So what does that tell you? It was a major problem back then, and it is still a major problem today. You know, people think, well, why do I need to give to the church? That preacher, he just wants to, you know, do this and that. And part of it is because you can tell evangelists that are wanting to buy $6 million planes
Yeah.
and, you know, that kind of thing. But really and truthfully, if the finances of the Lord are truly being given to God and used for His honor and glory, then we shouldn't have a problem giving, because guess what? Why do we have what we have? Because, and that is the thing about giving, is it demonstrates the fact that we understand where our finances come from. You know, that it's not us, and that our finances are not our own. Because at any given second, that could be gone.
Yeah.
At any given second. I mean, so many various ways. I mean, today, I mean, my youngest daughter's going through this. Somebody hacked their account and they drained every dime they had. Now, fortunately, it's covered. You know, it took some time for the bank to deal with it, but, you know, it happens. You know, and just a moment's notice. One moment your bank account has money in it, the next minute it doesn't. And so, you know, the stock market can crash. You can lose your health and not be able to work. I mean, there's so many different things that can happen that, you know, our finances would not be there anymore. And therefore, we need to understand it comes from God. And if we don't honor Him with that, chances are He may take it away. And that's not the reason we ought to give. It's because I'm afraid God's... But it ought to be out of a heart that recognizes the blessings of God. And we should have no problem giving back to Him.
God gives us the things we need. Now He doesn't give us the stuff we all want, because if we give else He would have new furniture everywhere. But He doesn't, which is fine. The old stuff is good enough. I can take it with me anyhow. But He gives us everything we need. And I remember when Caio done his little print shop on this side years and years ago, and I don't even remember what kind of bill, but a bill came in. And we didn't know how to pay it. And at one place called him, they wanted him to print something, I don't remember what. And he did it and took it there. And the check from there was exactly the amount of said bill. And I thought, boy, people don't believe in God, they're completely stupid.
Indeed.
My sister-in-law, Mac's sister, was a big, I mean, she believed in tithing.
Yes.
And she was putting out money, you know, this for this and this. And she said, this is for tithes. And her husband said, I think I need that money. And she said, okay. Well, he took that money and his truck tore up that week. And I don't remember what, I mean, he just had, I don't know how many things happened to him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, God will get it one way or the other.
Yeah. If
He never asked for it again.
I'll bet he didn't. I'll bet he didn't. My first church, when we were living in Gurdon and I was still going to college at Central Baptist College 3 days a week, we did not know how we were going to pay for the upcoming semester. This was during Christmas break. And we didn't tell anybody. It was just me and my wife that knew that we weren't sure where that was going to come from. And that December, one of the church members, they own a logging company there in the city, in town. The brothers own this logging company. He told the church that he wanted to give the preacher the bonus that year, and it was almost to the penny what my school bill was. And I mean, we had not told a soul.
But God knew.
But God knew, and God, you know. So, yeah, I've had people threaten me at church, not here, but where I came from. I had a lady threaten me, well, I'll just go get your job, because I made her mad about her daughter who got pregnant out of wedlock, and, you know, I didn't agree with what they wanted to do and church wanted to do, and she got mad at me and called me a few choice names, but then she said, well, I'll just go to that church and I'll have your job. I said, look, I said, I'm not worried about my job. I said, the Lord brought me here, and I said, if this church decides they don't want me to be here, He's got another place already planned, so you go do what you got to do. She never went, but, you know, that's always the way I've looked at it. You know, when I go to a church, I don't say, well, let me think about it, how much you gonna pay me? If this is God's will for me to be there, He's gonna take care of us. And I've never had to worry about our finances, because God has always been faithful. And, you know, we don't have a whole lot, but, you know, we are very blessed in what we have. Leslie and I probably have more now than we ever have. You know, our 3 kids look at it and say, well, why didn't we do that when we were... Dude, we didn't have the money to do it, y'all. While we're at home, we do now.
Y'all,
We had to feed you and clothe you and everything else. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
but,
when they hit it, but even before the teenage years, it was like you're feeling hollow legs.
yeah.
I would cook. People would think company was coming and what the teenage boy.
yeah,
Jeff
Derek,
Bodine is true.
when Derek was a junior
Oh,
in school and he hit that growth spurt and he was doing football, he would eat 6 times a week. I mean a day. He would eat 6
Yeah.
times a day,
you're hungry all the time.
and not gain an ounce.
I was the same
Talking
way.
about-
Too.
But
I could-
God takes care of us,
Yes.
and
amen.
so we don't have to worry about that if we will just learn to be faithful to Him and trust Him. And really, that's what the Israelites needed to do, is simply trust God. And when we trust God, then we obey God, and we see how God blesses us in a major way. So, you know, they did eventually somewhat learn the lesson, but of course that battle in Israel is still going on.
Oh, yeah.
You know, is Jesus? You know, a lot of them still don't believe that Jesus.
No,
They're
he
still
didn't
expecting the Messiah to come.
Yeah.
But you know,
No, it will come.
yeah, they don't think He's come once already though.
They're
They think
waiting for the first
they were still
time.
waiting for the first time.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the book of Revelation, it does tell us that one day the nation of Israel is going to turn and accept Christ for who He is. And a lot of Jews are going to be saved.
I don't know much
Right.
about the new Prime Minister of Israel, do you?
Mm-mm. I hadn't heard much about Israel lately because
No.
you've got COVID in Ukraine right now.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah,
On the world news, that's
So-
all you hear.
I really.
But and
haven't
they're
heard-
about the drag which killed. How
Yeah,
many they killed of them athletes from
6 or 7, plus
the other
the
ones?
drivers.
And the other ones are in the hospital
But-
in serious condition.
you know,
Yeah, across
Israel
the-
has been in war for
Yeah.
almost the time it went into the
Oh,
promised land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been at war, but, you know, one of these days that'll be over with as well. Any other word? Any word? Next week, we won't be here. We may, I don't know, we may try that following Wednesday to finish up Nehemiah. I hate to leave it incomplete. So we may cover chapters 12 and 13. I'm preaching out of chapter 13 this week, so anyway, we will probably finish up the Wednesday after next, and then we'll talk about Easter some. So, all right, thank y'all so much for watching online. God bless y'all. Have a great week. Hope to see you Sunday.